So we quickly move on to the next session. I can see all the esteemed speakers for that session are here. But first, I'd like to call the moderator on the dais, Dr. Shiladitya Chatterjee, member. Okay, no, the dais needs to be sorted first. We'd need a couple of minutes for that. Shiladitya Chatterjee, he's an esteemed member of our Economic Affairs National Committee of BCCNI, who is actually organizing this conclave, the Economic Affairs Committee of the Chamber. And he was a former ADB and advisor for Center for Sustainable Development Goals of Government of Assam. Next, I'd like to request Dr. Pralok Gupta, Associate Professor, Center for WTO Studies, IIFT, New Delhi. Dr. Gupta has come from New Delhi. Dr. Gupta is already on the dais. And can we have a round of applause for Dr. Gupta, please? Thank you. Next up, we have Ambassador Retired Sri Shumit Nakandala, who is the former Secretary General of BIMSTEC. He's come all the way from Colombo. A round of applause for Mr. Nakandala, please. Then I'd like to call upon Mr. Jitendra Kumar. He's the President, Legal and Corporate Affairs and Company Secretary of Exide Industries Limited. So, I'll announce him. Okay. Mr. Obhijit Banerjee, Managing Director, Linde India Limited, and also Vice President of the Bengal Chamber of Commerce and Industry. And we also have Dr. Priyadarshi Das, Associate Professor, Research and Information Systems for Developing Countries, RIS. He's joining us virtually. He has some preoccupation, could not travel to Calcutta. So Dr. Das, do we have you? Can I see? Is Dr. Das around? Okay. We can't hear you, Dr. Das. Perhaps you're muted.
No, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. Right.
Yeah, thank you. I'm correct.
Okay. So, Dr. Chatterjee, before I just give you the proceedings to take forward, let me introduce the audience about the session. This session is about harnessing technology to integrate key sectors into global value chain. I guess all of you were here when Dr. Mitra was giving his speech, and he very aptly mentioned about integration of key sectors into the global value chain for integration of regional trade and harnessing economic progress. So that's where we are. We would be delving into more of it. And to take forward the session proceedings, I would request Dr. Shiladitya Chatterjee to please take it up. Thank you, sir.
Okay, I think I'll speak from here. It'll be more convenient for the speakers. Yeah. Also, thanks, Sambit, for the introduction. So the session is it's a sub theme. The overall theme of this this year has been technology and how it impacts on trade and economic cooperation in the Asia Pacific region. And here we are going to discuss, in this particular sub-session, we are going to discuss somewhat more specifics. So we have a very eminent panel here. As they speak one by one, I'll introduce them very quickly. But these are people who are practitioners, who are actually doing the technology or accessing the technology which is going to bring in the greater productivities in trade and investments and so on, and lead to better and firmer economic cooperation in the Asia Pacific region. So there are three main areas we will be discussing in this session. When we talk of technology, we must talk about the most cutting edge technology that is there before us. And I know, I don't know too much about it, but I'd like to learn. Many of our companies have heard about it, but we must consider these technologies and strategize about them and try and access them. because they open up huge opportunities for us. So the first of the areas is, all of us have heard about this, blockchain technology and how it impacts particularly on international trade finance. It has major applications, and if our companies are able to access this technology, I believe you can increase productivities manifold and ease trade investments and so on, and increase regional cooperation in many ways. So this is one area, and also other cutting edge technologies such as artificial intelligence, use of big data, and all of those other things. Yeah. So these, unfortunately, my little understanding is that we've not really access to much of it. But here we have some practitioners who are actually in companies who can tell us what are they thinking about it. Okay. All right. That's one area. The second one is overall the issue of technology in supply chains, in augmenting supply chains. How can we use technology, and this new technology particularly, in augmenting the supply chains? And how much of supply chains are we doing actually? So that is the other thing. And the third overall, the area is what are the policy and other regulatory requirements, the prerequisites for bringing about greater access of this technology. So there are three broad areas, and then I would invite this very eminent panel to delve into this, and I'm sure they'll have very interesting presentations. So the first one is Dr. Pralok Gupta, Associate Professor, Center for WTO Studies, IIFT, New Delhi. Can I ask Professor Gupta to please, you can sit there and if you want, okay, fine, whatever is comfortable for you. Yep.
Thank you, Chair, for giving me this opportunity, and thank you BCCI also for organizing this very important, very timely event, as well as inviting us for speaking during this conclave. So I will speak with my hat of trade negotiator for the government of India. I have been negotiating the trade agreements with a lot of countries, UK, EU, Australia. Mr. Kevin Go was mentioning about the agreement with the Australia ACTA. So I was a trade negotiator for the ACTA agreement, and also now for the comprehensive SECA agreement also. In fact, last month we were having a negotiating round in Sydney, and many other agreements. So I will more focus on the trade agreement and the two pillars, the last two pillars that the chair was mentioning, the building resilient supply chains as well as the trade policy aspect in that reference. So before starting the intervention, I would like to mention two important facts from the perspective of trade policy resilience as well as the trade policies. One from India's perspective and other from the global perspective. So first, from that global perspective, there is a significant change the way we think about global value chain in the post-COVID era. And what is that change? Before COVID, companies were more and more focusing on just-in-time trade. So the mantra, and it was coined, it was coming from Japan, the just-in-time trade, that the inventory should be available just to finish the task, and there should be zero inventory or very less inventory kind of policy to save the cost. Now there is a sea change in the attitude, and that is now the policy is just in case inventory. So you should be ready to have inventory just in case whenever it is needed. Now that means you have to have a plan to think of that what could be the possible scenarios, what could be the possible situation when you require inventory. Now in order to see this thing, you require a visibility of end-to-end global supply chains. And that visibility can come from the use of technology. So technology is very important from that perspective to see the end-to-end visibility of supply chains, that what is happening at each stage. Then you can have this thing. The second important issue is from the India's perspective that the participation of Indian firms in the global value chain is very less as compared to the other countries, many other countries in the Indo-Pacific as well as globally. And more so in the goods. In the manufacturing sector, in the goods sector, our participation is very less. In services, I would say still we have significantly, it's a relatively higher participation because of our expertise in the information technology and IT enabled services. But still, many other services still we are lacking. So now, in that perspective, let me focus on the trade agreement perspective, that what trade agreements offer for increasing the participation and what government of India is doing from the policy perspective. So one is that from the India's perspective, there is a WTO trade facilitation agreement. There are certain provisions which can help us integrating in the trade global value chains. Now, why and how these provisions can help? Because an important element to integrate in the global value chain is, one is your, particularly from the goods perspective, like the tariffs on the raw materials. If tariffs are high, obviously you are not going to import the raw material. And second is the how easily you can export and import. So this part, how easily you can import, here the role is of technology. On the first part, like your tariffs, these are the policy decisions based on different considerations, like sometimes revenue considerations, sometimes many other considerations, or bilateral relation with the country. So depending upon the policy consideration, so their technology may not play a significant role, but the how easily you can export and import, their technology has an important role. So India has recently signed this Indo-Pacific economic framework, the third plan on the global value supply chain, resilient supply chain, and this came into existence in February this year. So there are a lot of provisions with respect to supply chain. For example, like paperless trade or electronic invoicing, electronic payments. Now, these can significantly help in enhancing the trade or cross-border facilitation of exports and imports. Now, the other example is like pre-approval of trade documents. Now, let me give you one example that how it can help in integration in the global value chains and better realization of businesses. And this example belongs to West Bengal, Bangladesh border itself, so not far. Earlier when the trucks are crossing the border, so they used to take 2-3 days because they went to the border, then they wait for the clearance for the documents, then they search for the parking of the trucks, and usually it takes 2-3 days. Now with the use of this pre-arrival authorization of documents, the documents can be authorized in advance. The parking lots can also be booked in advance. So now the trucks are coming. The moment they come, the operator sitting in the booth, they know that this so-and-so truck is coming. It is carrying so-and-so document and so-and-so goods or consignment. And then he or she can check that what is the status of whether it is approved, what kind of, and immediately he opens up the boom barrier and the truck crosses the border. So that thing which earlier was taking 2-3 days, now it is taking hardly half an hour. So it saves a lot of cost and lot of time for the businesses, for the entrepreneurs. So this is the use of technology and the kind of policies that can help build resilient supply chains. But as I said that these are some of the things that are being taken by India. Globally also, many countries are taking much ahead step. For example, like Australia and Singapore, they have signed a digital economic partnership agreement where the provisions are much more elaborate, much more advanced to develop an ecosystem for use of technology for supply chains. Now, when I am saying that they are much more advanced, they are much more, they are ahead with us, one could argue that then Indian government or India should also go ahead and follow these kind of principles, which are more into like cross-border data flow or seamless data flow or without source code, no provisions, source code, those kind of provisions. But let me caution you here, because what is being adopted in other countries, that need not be taken up here as it is. First, like cross-border data flow. Cross-border data flow, of course, we understand that there is an importance of data flow. Data should go to other country. It is the backbone of any digital economy. But at the same time, we should also understand, first, data is the critical raw material. And I quote one statement from a movie which I like very much, very recent movie. I think it was Call Me Babe, which was released on the Netflix. And the statement was, earlier, and it is Hindi, पहले भगवान दाता था. So that means God was the giver. भगवान दाता था. Now भगवान data है. So that means data is now kind of God, that whatever you can think, you can build from the data. So that means if it is data is so important, we cannot let that go. I mean, just without any condition. And when I say any condition, I don't want to say that there should be undue restrictions, but at the same time there should be legitimate condition restriction on data flow. Then second, cyber security issue which were
Sorry to
raised.
interrupt, but can you please summarize quickly?
2 minutes?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So cyber security issue which were mentioned by Professor Upachanda also, and very important issue is about the spamming, because these spam mails has the they can affect the businesses very badly. And again, I give you one example from my own experience. When I was in Italy for quite some time, I did not receive a single spam phone call or spam message on my phone. But each day here you receive a number of SMS, phone call, and obviously they can affect each day we hear that some person as an individual they got affected, businesses also suffer loss. So there is a tendency to misuse the technology also. So with these words, let me conclude that use of technology, blockchain, AI, they can help to integrate in the global value chains, building resilient supply chains. But at the same time, with policy framework, unless we have a good policy framework, there is a risk of losing on these things. And Government of India is already taking efforts in this direction, and I am sure later also this will fructify. Thank you so much for your patience sharing. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Gupta. Now, I'll come to my personal reactions later when all of you have spoken. Yeah, that will save on the time. Okay, our next speaker is Ambassador Sumit Nakandala. He was former Secretary General of BIMSTEC and has a wealth of experience in this area. So, Professor, Ambassador.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Chatterjee. At the outset, I would like to express my deep gratitude to the BCCI for inviting me. In fact, Kolkata has a very special place in my heart, and West Bengal too. Just to provide you a kind of caveat, when I was a childhood, I was able to read a wonderful book written by Gurudev Rabindranath Tagore. The title of the book was Gora. Now that entire book gave me a deep impression about British Kolkata. When I first came here while working in the Sri Lankan High Commission in New Delhi, I was trying to figure out or project where was this Gora's, I mean, the picture of Kolkata with the trams and other things. So that's why I always like to come to Kolkata, including book shopping. You have wonderful books. Apart from that, I think there is a very strong Sri Lankan presence in Kolkata, that is the Mahabodhi Society in the College Road. So Sri Lanka and Kolkata has a very important role. Now with that, I'll start my presentation. I thought, Professor Dr. Banerjee, I will take two aspects in the in the whole discussion point. First one is the regional collaboration. I deliberately use regional cooperation and policy framework. Most of these things, I think there is similarity between what Dr. Rupa Chadha has explained. I think we met in Bangkok, and you said many things I wanted, and I'm very happy that she's here. That shows the important work done by the UN ESCAP on trade facilitation, then digital trade, digitalization of transactions. Why I am telling this? Because the moment you talk about digital platforms, one of the most important element is what I would say affordable broadband platform. Now, if you compare with the internet charges in the region, Sri Lanka has the highest, because there is a tax on tax on tax. There is a VAT, there is another tax. So it is very difficult for the people to access the affordable internet. That is very important. Today morning also we talked about submarine cables. Now, if you take the map of Indo-Pacific, I would say Indian Ocean or Bay of Bengal, the connectivity through submarine optical fiber cables are the backbone. Now, we don't have a regional or international treaty which will govern certain norms of the maintenance. At the moment, what we have is it's a multinational collective of multinational corporations maintaining CIMA V 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and Bay of Bengal gateway network. So that is very important. One of the things UNESCAP can do is to come up with intergovernmental legal framework. It can become UN treaty much later, but I think that is very important. So number one is the digital connectivity across the Indo-Pacific. Then how do we govern the most important connectivity platform, that is the submarine optical fiber facility. Apart from that, years ago, UNESCAP started Asia Pacific Information Superhighway. I really do not know the current status of the APIS, but APIS has 4 pillars basically: connectivity, internet traffic and network management, e-resilience, and broadband for all. I think these are very, very important aspects in integrating trade, and Dr. Rupa also spoke about WTO Trade Facilitation Agreement plus. In fact, in the BIMSTEC as well, we were discussing the possibility of going for trade facilitation agreement, because Bhutan is not a member of the WTO. So they are in kind of a disadvantaged position vis-a-vis other members in the WTO. In case of regional collaboration, I feel there are 2 ways to approach. One is the bilateral, actually 3, bilateral policy integration is very important. The other way is the plurilateral or regional. Now, in this region, we have SAARC. One can say that SAARC is dead, but there is BIMSTEC, there is Indian Ocean Rim Association. In the morning also, they talked about Indian Ocean Rim Association. Then most importantly, a secretariat-driven intergovernmental organization is the UNESCAP. The other thing is, nobody talked about the role of ADB. I think there is a definite role for Asian Development Bank. Of course, it is a bank, a lending agency, but In terms of promoting regional cooperation and integration, ADB has been continuously focusing and funding number of activities. Some of these things we need to see from that light. Now, there is no point in talking or discussing if you don't have a pragmatic, sustainable policy framework. I think the policy framework should come at the national level and the regional level. At least we should try to achieve that. National level, then it should have linkage with the regional level. One of the possible things to achieve, I think, the Bay of Bengal is very important part of the Indo-Pacific. So BIMSTEC can be a possible launching pad as an experiment, policy integration. Then we can go to the larger levels of integration. The technology integration is not a free rider. I think technology integration has its own cost. We need to, that is why I'm trying to focus on the regional aspect rather than the bilateral approach. So the other important aspect is, I think I have basically covered regional cooperation and policy framework, policy cooperation and integration at that level. This needs to be understood as part of promoting human civilization as well. I'm coming to the. I think there was a question previously about ethics and risks involved. I think if we need to focus from the civilizational aspect as well, because it is the imagination of human mind which has provided the technological advancement. That is why many people are little afraid about the future role of artificial intelligence. Because when you talk about artificial intelligence, you are simply taking away the human factor. So that is something that we need to be more careful. But any human development from now on, I think it is technology driven, but supported by civilizational processes, at least in this part of the world, because Asia Pacific and Indo-Pacific or Indian Ocean is very rich. We have a very rich civilizational underpinnings. That is where I think our future lies, and I think it is my firm belief that regional cooperation and integration in at least in the Bay of Bengal and Asia Pacific can succeed. To that end, I think the Asian Development Bank as well as the UNESCAP has done tremendous work and provided number of platforms to promote and train human resources, I mean especially the paperless trade and other things, and Asian Highway Project, Trans-Asian Railway Network, and these are the things that nobody is aware about deeply. And finally, I think technology should be a tool in development rather than human beings are becoming tool of technology. Thank you very much.
Okay, our next speaker. A little bit more, that's okay. That's all right. Okay, yeah. Next speaker is Mr. Abhijit Banerjee, Managing Director, Linde India Limited. Mr. Banerjee, 5 minutes, please. We are running out of time.
Not a problem, Dr. Chatterjee. Ladies and gentlemen, my fellow panelists, let me be honest with you. The reason for my participation in this is more from a listening perspective than as a speaker. Let me elaborate a bit on that. I'm from Linde, the world's largest gas company. Technologically, we are up over there. But when talking about the theme of using technology for trade is a bit of a challenge for me, primarily because the gas industry is a very localized industry. Almost everything that we sell to our customers, most of it is manufactured locally. Gases, as we say, don't travel much. So, talking about the Indo-Pacific region, I think Linde is the largest or second largest gas supplier in almost each and every country in the Indo-Pacific. But our contribution to the trade in Indo-Pacific is negligible. So that makes me eminently unqualified for the subject. But I'd like to share a couple of things in terms of technology. One is, of course, technology-wise, I said Linde is up there. Over the last 4 or 5 years, we've been on a major digitalization path, improving our processes, our efficiencies, giving better customer service in terms of various things like vendor management, inventory, improving our safety aspects. There is one aspect of technology which we have recently introduced in our business that was regarding the very limited trade that we do. There are some products that we handle which are sourced from outside India. A lot of APAC countries manufacture them. As of now, the demand in India is not sufficient for us to set up manufacturing bases. So we get them over. They are from some specific industries, for example, the photovoltaic cell manufacturing, which is now picking up hugely because of the PLIs. The semiconductor industry, which right now in India is zilch, but is expected to grow substantially. So these products are very hazardous in nature. Some of them are highly toxic, some of them are highly inflammable, some of them are highly corrosive. So each of them has a specific package in which it's imported or transported. So one has to invest a lot in these packages and also track these packages because there are huge safety requirements for these packages in terms of the certification, in terms of the testing, interim testing, and of course in India on top of that we have the PESO requirements. So last year, when the photovoltaic, as I was saying, the PLI scheme came into force and a lot of our customers started manufacturing, we realized we had a problem. Managing the inventory of packaging, the various packages, in the most cost optimum manner, whether it be from a CapEx perspective or OpEx perspective, at the same time maintaining, ensuring that the customer requirements are met, as well as all these safety boxes are ticked, we realized we need to do something special. And that's where the team got it. They huddled together, created an algorithm, used Power BI, and came out with a lovely digitalization project which tracks each and every package that is assigned to us, whether it's via the manufacturer's works, whether it's at the customer, whether it's at the port. Every one of them is packaged, every one of them is tagged with its safety documents, all the necessary documents for shipping, safety, everything. So from my perspective, as I said, that's, let's say, our introductory, steps into using technology for trade. That's it from my side. Thanks.
Next speaker is Mr. Jitendra Kumar, who is the currently he is the President, Legal and Corporate Affairs and Company Secretary of Exide Industries Limited.
Thank
Mr.
you,
Kumar,
Dr.
again,
Chatterjee.
I'll just remind you because we have shortage of time, if you can just take about 5 minutes.
Yeah, I will be more brief than my earlier speaker. And as you see my designation, probably I'm also not a technology person. So what I'm just to talk on my companies, the complexities involved in my companies from the technology perspective, and probably the kind of adoption which on the digital front and the technology front which has been implemented in my company. So as you know, I represent the company called Exide. So most of them who are from this side of this region know Exide Industries. We have been here for last 77 years, and we have been the market leader throughout the entire 77 years in India. And we are the largest manufacturer of lead acid batteries, which is used in for automotive as well as industrial applications. And we produce batteries which range from 2.5 ampere hour to 20,000 ampere hour. And probably we are the largest range of manufacture of lead acid batteries in the globe. And we are among the top 10 global manufacturers of these lead acid batteries. And we export in more than 63 countries. And talking about our manufacturing productions, we basically sell more than 5 million batteries, automotive batteries per month, and 50 million ampere hour of industrial power every month. So that's the breadth of our production. And we have 11 manufacturing facilities, factories all across India, spread in east, west, north, south, basically closer to our OE suppliers. And the kind of, till I would say 7 years back, of course, the digitalization and technology was going on its own space, though we have SAP and ERP system maybe 25 years back. But sometime in 2015, 16, 17, we realized that business, if has to grow, if it has to make pace with the industry, it has to adopt a different kind of technology. So this is where we adopted the technology and digitalization in a major way. So what we did, we started with a separate cell with a focus on digital. We hired a person who was very early 40s, who happened to be a chief digital officer. The kind of salary which was offered to that person was much more than probably the CFO at that point of time. So that's the real impact of digitalization. So our board also thought that, this is the next step. If you have to take, we have to scale up the operations, the thinking has to be completely differently. So we started with our sales transformation, where we have today more than 120,000 dealers and distributor network, which is spread all across India. So the demand generation, earlier it was the sales people who was going and coming with, okay, this is the demand which is coming from a particular region. So rather than doing that, we adopt the technology and we say it cannot go that way. It has to be completely digitalized. It has to be completely driven by the market. And we map the market generation, the demand generation from each region, and that is how the budget making process was completely driven through that process. So we adopted sales transformation. We completely given all the 120 or 1,000 the dealers given a completely tab digital platform. We have a different software installed at their site, which is completely integrated with our site. So that is how there is a seamless kind of flow of information, target, demand, and everything was completely integrated. So once this sales transformation was completed, then we started with our supply chain, because kind of taking the batteries from the factory to warehouse to the dealer's place. So it involves primary, secondary, tertiary, all this supply chain. So that is where we completely adopted transformation of entire our supply chain. Then came to our manufacturing. So then Industrial 4.0 was introduced in all our factories. So now I would say the entire supply chain with respect to from the procurement side to digital side to sales side to these things, it is completely digitalized. So every day at 9:30 when we come to our office, right from CEO's desk to all the functional heads, you see a completely dashboard with all the information at very minute level details from region wise to supply side to warehouse side, everything is digitalized. But having said that, technology has its own, I would say, while it is, it increase the speed, increase the efficiency, it has also some pitfalls. So there is always a negative side to the technology. So unless it is being completely kind of implemented in a thorough manner, unless it is completely mapped properly, proper systems, control, risk management are not there, it cannot give the, it can be counterproductive as well. So we basically what we did, we we from policy level, whether it is from data protection to cyber security to all this, whatever safeguard is required, we put our robust risk management process into the system. So that is where, we thought that we cannot just leave it very open-ended. So through policy framework, through proper system processes, we strengthen that. And today we think that there is some kind of balance between technology, is driven, but at the same there has to be sufficient checks and balances in the system to make it a little bit neutral. Having said that, we are all learning. We are also, what was done yesterday is not going to foolproof for tomorrow. So we are still in a learning stage, and as the world grows, as the industry grows, and as well the expectation from the investors grows day by day, so we are also trying to be nimble-footed, try to be adept, try to be agile, and see how thing goes. So that's all, is our brief journey about digital. As I told, I'm not a technology person, so better to be agile and adopt the technology as it goes. So thank you.
Okay, our last speaker on the panel is Dr. Priyadarshi Das, and I had requested Mr. Das, I'd given him a kind of a challenging assignment in our pre-discussions for this forum to speak a little bit about this cutting-edge technology. So he sort of accepted the challenge. We know very little about it, all of us. Okay, so he may know a little bit more. So please enlighten us, tell us where we are, what are its prospects, how it can help us, and where is India in this?
Thank you so much, sir. I hope you can hear me well.
Yeah.
I'll be
Can hear
sharing a couple of slides and run through. I understand that we are running short of time, but let me just quickly go through the slides that I have. So as mentioned by Chair, this blockchain technology is one of the advanced digital technologies which is having very significant impact the way international trade, financial transactions are happening. And companies, countries, institutions are learning how to sort of factor in this new technology into their processes and can see optimizing outcomes. So if you see in that context, fintech is borrowing some of these advanced digital technologies. Fintech is basically financial technologies and trying to enhance the quality of financial services and also having significant development objectives. For example, helping in financial inclusion, helping in sustainable development goals. But before that, let me just share what is this interesting technology that we are talking about. See, it's basically helping a transition from a manual, cumbersome process, paper-driven process to more of a connected computer machine system. So it's basically a distributed ledger, decentralized technology which helps hundreds of computers to be connected and work simultaneously, and a huge storage and recording capacities. It means that suppose there is a value chain involving several suppliers, and each one of them have some information in the operation side. So it can be stored. It can be stored at the simultaneously, and it is a flawless technology because it is very difficult for any hacker or anybody to break into the blocks, which are the blocks are different blocks informing different information connected in a chain. So it has to solve a very strong mathematical puzzle written in a very strong algorithm. So it's very difficult to break. So far is the understanding is that there is a very robust security framework, and what it does that in terms of the financial transactions, the agreement that the borrower and the lender do, it happens in a seamless way. If you go into any fintech app, you can understand that. So the smart contracts are happening in a very transparent way, much faster because the ledgers are connected, and they are also the automated legal compliances are also done. And this blockchain technology is helping the third party, eliminating in fact the third party to come into the transaction. So possibly the literature says a cost of reduction is happening and all these. And we are all reading that how the cryptocurrencies are getting into in our lives in a way, and this is the technology which is helping that. So let me go to the specific areas where the blockchain technology applications are quite manifested and increasingly getting accepted by the service providers. One is that just because the technology has this beautiful capacity of storing data, so it is easy for the account aggregators to pass the information, the lending institutions or the firms to process that financial information in a instantaneous way and generate that credit score, which determines the lending capacity and the amount the person or the institution is able to borrow from the market. So peer-to-peer lending. So peer here is the borrower, the lender, like that, and the platforms like the Paytm, PhonePe. These are the platforms, marketplace for the lending. And in fact, today's Economic Times says the taste for the digital platforms to access credit is increasing. As by end of June, there has been 27% growth in digital loans disbursed by digital lenders on a year-on-year basis. And if you see in terms of the magnitude, is currently around 37,686 crore. So if you need to sort of cultivate that taste for the digital platform, there is a huge market there, and that will sort of promote the blockchain technologies and the blockchain technologies adopted by the fintech firms to further expand the market. So in terms of the bullet points, better credit score, because credit scores are generated earlier through a server-based credit scoring generation, which can be leaked and hacked by people. And that's what many, if you get a call from the companies, you don't know how did they get your numbers, all these things. So now it is happening in a block chain basis. So there is a blockchain enabled ID, clearing settlement process, digital verification of the identity of the borrower or the lender. Trade finance platforms are also getting streamlined, cross-border platforms, cross-border transactions. Now here I am just showing some trend in terms of what is the trend of fintech applications in the different segments, because fintech involves AI, blockchain, but AI is more of a centralized platform, even though the data is more secure. But in blockchain, you have a distributed ledger, and it's a decentralized system. Anybody can sort of update the information on a real-time basis. If you see this bar, the fintech segments are growing in low-income countries. Look at the green lines. The fintech customers are growing in low-income countries, and youth are preferring the fintech solutions, and it is growing in rural and remote areas. So all these three are very interesting segments of the financial services market, which has not been tapped by the banks and other financial sector entities. That's why there is a market for fintech, which indirectly implies the blockchain and other technology to come. Secondly, if you look at these segments, literature says that there is a very strong credit potential exists in certain segments because they are left out of the collateral centric lending model by the banks. So since these categories of borrowers do not have the collateral, they depend on money lenders. Now they are moving from the money lenders to a more sort of favorable lenders. It's not like money lenders, but the interest rate is still high. Street vendors, workers, homemakers, these are the market segments where the fintech is entering to that. And there is a great satisfaction in terms of perceived satisfaction by the supply providers, because operationally they are having efficiency and a better customer experience, because the customer doesn't have to stick to 10 to 5 hours of office operations and also submitting a bunch of documents to for processing that. If you think of supply chain, again, this is a bit dated data, somewhere 2-3 years back, I got it from some source. But this tells the trend that if you see in terms of what type of transactions happening or what sort of supply chain finance is needed, where fintech applications are going, discounting, pre-shipment finance, factoring and variation, all these
Dr.
things.
Das, sorry, can you just wind up?
One more
please?
slide, sir.
Yeah,
One more
okay,
slide.
okay, thank you.
So these are the areas where you see fintechs are increasingly getting into the supply chain finance, which we are talking about in this session. And there is a big policy push to the blockchain based technological applications and the fintech sector in the financial sector. Just because at the macro level or at the multilateral level, the fintechs are getting increasing to the SDG goals. So, as I said, that financial inclusion, which has been a topmost priority for the developing countries, were happening in a conventional way. Now that the digital layer is helping the government to ensure that it can be fast tracked, and which is happening. And that's why the national level financial inclusion goals, and if you sort of integrate that into SDG, it is giving a big policy push for the countries to leverage the digital technologies. And what has happened in India in the last few years, that is also quite interesting, that if you see the policy evolution from 2014 onwards, if you see in a way, there has been gradual evolution in terms of recognizing different components of the digital technology applications in the financial services sector, from account aggregators to peer-to-peer lending, then having a policy on digital lending. Now we are talking about self-regulatory organizations for fintech industry, and that we all know that since there are numerous fintech solutions, the Reserve Bank of India is trying to sort of validate, mature, and test those technologies through sandbox model. So altogether, a favorable policy environment in India and other Indo-Pacific countries. In fact, ADB has a lot of publications on fintech and MSME sector lending. So altogether, you get a sense that fintech has a large market. Just because fintech has a large application in financial services sector, blockchain applications are also going to be sort of demanded. But in the last sentence would be, just because the blockchain technology is being perceived as a better sort of platform for dealing with the financial transactions, both fintech, blockchain, and all these cryptocurrencies are evolving. So we cannot guarantee that blockchain ensures that is the only best way of providing financial services. So that's a caveat that we need to keep in mind. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you, Dr. Das. That was very interesting. Okay, now I think we're running out of time. So what I'll do is very quickly look at some of the things that all of us, very distinguished panel has spoken about, and some of the things that came out, very interesting things. One is, I think there is a general recognition that that technology is going to be very useful in the context of Indian companies, as well as in encouraging greater economic cooperation between countries. So that recognition is there, although as we learned that India is not really, has not accessed as much as it should have as much as Asia Pacific has. So there's a long way to go. Now there are very many issues why this hasn't happened. One of it is cost. As Mr. Kumar explained, it's a very costly technology. So Indian companies may not be able to afford it. The other thing could be capacities. We don't have the skills as yet. Haven't developed the skills. So that could be another problem. Professor Nakandala raised a number of very important issues, particularly the question of agreements. The fact that we need to have perhaps multilateral kind of agreements. And he mentioned, thank you for mentioning this, ADB. That's my organization where I've worked 20 years. Should play a bigger role in this, and has been playing a very big role in regional cooperation, and I think should play a much bigger role in our deliberations here. And I would request, of course, that we keep up. We have been trying to get ADB on here. We've got ESCAP here. ESCAP is, thank you, Ms. Chanda and Mikiko for coming. It's very important that these two very important regional players be here in our efforts to expand our role as a niche player, niche kind of chamber of commerce, playing this role of regional cooperation between chambers of commerce. This is something which we can play very well, strategically placed as we are. So thank you for mentioning that. One thing we did not mention and did not speak about, which maybe you can, one of you can kind of comment on, particularly Mr. Banerjee, maybe. You're working in this gas area. What about the green aspect? What kind of effort are you making to see that the technology is green rather than, polluting and so on? I think that is, as we go into kind of advanced technologies, we have to think about two aspects. One is the equity aspect that we have spoken about, and there is a big, as we saw from Mr. Dash's kind of presentation, there's a very big scope for the equity aspect being implemented. But what about the green aspect?
Yeah, very important question. I think everyone's talking about green. The only thing is, if I may talk about India, it's about balancing sustainability with development. Unlike a lot of advanced economies where they have the wherewithal to go all out on their sustainability, let's say, journey. For example, US with their Inflation Reduction Act and EU with whatever they're doing. I don't think India at this stage can afford those sort of subsidies which will make green technology viable for the industries as of now. So, and India still has a lot of growth aspirations, and a lot of growth will come from so-called polluting industries. So that balance needs to be kept in mind. Technologies are available. They are, unfortunately, at this point of time, they are not all of them economically viable. They will lead to a cost of production definitely higher than what the world knows today. It's a journey. It's a journey that has started. People are not just talking about it. They are putting a lot of effort into it. And I'm sure within the next 5, 6, 7 years, technology will also improve substantially and make green, not just green from an environment perspective, but green from a dollar perspective also.
Thank you very much, Mr. Banerjee. Can anyone, would you like to add something from the Excite point of view?
Yeah, on this green initiative, we have taken a major step. Now you know that all these ICE engines are being converted into EV vehicles. So as an Excite, we have taken a step, firm steps to put up a, cell manufacturing. It's in the lithium ion in Bangalore. It's coming in Bangalore. It's a massive investment. And going forward, we think that this is a one-way journey. I mean, the penetration of EV vehicles in India and globally is going to grow from what we stand here. So we have already taken a firm steps, and next year we are going to start our commercial production. So there is a massive, massive investment going from our traditional, battery industries to the electric batteries. Yeah, I think as Mr. Banerjee told, it has to be matched with the sustainability part as well. So we are taking a balanced step to match the business side as well as the sustainability side of that as well. Thank you.
Thanks. I think what I'll do now is open it up to the floor. Maybe a few questions. Yeah.
This is Professor Bhattacharya from Globestein Business School. I had some background in industrial gases, so I think you stated already the question of greenness. My question to Mr. Banerjee would be, what is the status of green hydrogen? Would it be possible to use in the near future?
Good question.
Again, about costs. It's about costs, it's about availability, and I think it was discussed in the meeting, the discussion that the NTPC chairman, CMD also brought in. Green definitely has to be gone in for, but are we fully ready for green? What about storage? So this whole ecosystem has to develop. Unfortunately, for example, green hydrogen, we are dependent on a technology which is centuries old, electrolyzer. It's the most inefficient technology you can ever come across. There's work going on in trying to use electricity to directly crack water. Still pilot plant, not even pilot, lab scale. So you need to give it some more time before it really becomes viable. And I think, again, Mr. Rai will also always agree, storage is something that is essential. Without storage, green energy will not hit that.
Oil will not be there in 50 years' time all over the world. The compressed natural gas will go away after 75 years. And coal maximum will last 120 years. What should we do then?
No, but
The big
I'm not
problem-
talking about a century sort of a time frame of 100 years or so. I'm talking about a time frame of, give it another 5, 10 years.
That's
See, green hydrogen today is what solar power was in 2010-11. Very expensive, a pipe dream. What are we with solar power now? Green hydrogen will also be that. Give it a time frame.
Just wanted to butt in for a second, Mr. Banerjee. That is, I'm sometimes confused because electrolyzers or process of electrolysis requires a lot of power, right? Power.
Of course.
Chloralkali industries, etc.
Yeah, it's at least 5
No, so
kWh per
nobody
annum.
knows how that power is generated. Because to generate that power, you may use fossil fuels. Is that green hydrogen?
No. So that will be green, and so that's what I said. First, you have to have green energy. You have to have storage for that green energy, or you use green energy as it comes to create hydrogen and store that hydrogen. And it's not just power. What about water? Has anyone
Yeah.
given a thought to water?
Absolutely.
No one has. And another thing, how confident are we at these electrolyzers themselves? The manufacturing of electrolyzers is not polluting the environment. No one talks about it.
Okay, maybe, just.
Actually, what does green hydrogen means? Hydrogen production without carbon. That is called green hydrogen. Hydrogen without
I'm
carbon.
sorry, the seminar is on trade. You want something on hydrogen, we can have it after this. I would love to discuss.
That is from my knowledge. Okay,
No,
thank you.
it's not.
Any
Green
other
hydrogen is specifically hydrogen produced from renewable energy. We have other shades of hydrogen. We have blue hydrogen, pink hydrogen, white hydrogen.
And grey hydrogen also.
Grey hydrogen is from fossil fuels. And we have various shades of hydrogen.
Thank you,
Okay,
sir.
can we have some other question other than hydrogen,
Regarding
please?
storage, can we think of hydride?
Sorry,
As-
think we can take the
hydrogen
Yeah,
discussion
I think-
offline.
If we're getting diverted to hydrogen, is there any other question apart from hydrogen?
Yeah. I think, sir, they can take the questions offline perhaps with the panelists. Yeah. So,
Any other general question on technology or anything that you came up to you? Any issues? Well, if not, I think we will end here. Thank you very much. I think it was a very, very interesting session. It was very informative for me, and I think there's a lot of work to be done, okay, especially on the regional cooperation side. And I think BCCI has a very big role to play in this.
Thank you, sir. And indeed, it was an important and critical session because we had the private sector participation, the policy makers here, and also the academia participating, where we get all kinds of perspective. And you being former ADB, brought in the regional perspective also. So once again, a round of applause to all our panelists, including Mr. Dash, who has joined online. Who will now like to do the honors. I can see a couple of our former presidents here. So can I request Mr. Debe Mukherjee to please come up on the dais and do the honors for a couple of our panelists here. Yeah, sir, if you could kindly come up on the dais. First to Dr. Pralok Gupta. In case all of you are wondering what's in the box, it's a pretty decent looking leather wallet with BCCI embroidered logo. Embossed logo. Empty wallet, sir. You need to fill it in. Okay, thank you. Ambassador Nakandala next. Thank you, Deep, sir. May I request Mr. Aniruddha Lahiri, former president, to come up on the dais, please.
Thank you for the honor. I can see the footsteps still.
Yeah, so request Mr. Lahiri to do the honors to Mr. Banerjee, Mr. Abhijit Banerjee first. Sir, you need to, one for the photograph.
Oh. So should I go or Mr. Banerjee should come out? I think
Yeah,
he should be
yeah.
the one. That's right.
To Mr. Jitendra Kumar now. Thank you. Thank you. The panel can have a group picture together, and then we quickly move on to the last session of the day.